Good morning, students of class 6. Welcome to history class. We are reading unit 6, some important countries and people of the ancient east. We were reading about Babylon, and our lesson for today is section C, temple and priest, section D, learning and culture, and section E, Hammurabi's court. While reading about Sumerians, you learned about ziggurat. Now, as in Sumer, in Babylonia too, the cities grew round the ziggurat, that is the temple of the city god. The temples were constructed of baked bricks. The walls in front of the temple had glossy tiles set on them, giving them a beautiful look. The temple was a series of higher and higher terraces, as you can see in these pictures. As you go upward, the shape decreases. The temple at the top was the sanctuary of God, the holiest part of the temple. That is, the topmost portion is where, according to the people of that time, God resides, and that is the holiest part of the temple. The temple also contained a school attached to it, besides room for worship and granary. As each temple had vast treasures and wealth, it was a center of trade as well. Like the modern banks, the temples used to lend money at a higher rate of interest. They used to buy and sell goods as well. So you see, temple at that time was not only a place of worship, it had multifarious tasks to do. What are those? Besides the place of worship, it had school, granary. It was a kind of bank because it lended money to people at a high rate of interest, and also a place of trade from where people used to buy and sell goods. Now let us know something about the priests in Babylonia. To offer sacrifices to gods, celebrated festivals were part and parcel of the religion of the Babylonians, and for such matters priests were indispensable. The Babylonians believed that it was only through the priests, who were servants of gods, that one could win the favor of gods. So, to Babylonians, priests were the servants of gods, and it is through them common people could reach God. Naturally, in that age, the priests came to occupy a prominent position in the society. So, priests during that time hold a prominent or an important position in that society, because it was through priests common people could link with God or could get the message of God through the priests. So they gave due importance to the priests. One of the benefits granted to the priest by the god was the ability to foretell the future. That is, to say what is going to happen in the future. So priests during that time had that ability. This art is known as divination, that is foretelling, and the priest who practiced it was a diviner, that is fortune teller. Now, what is divination? The practice of seeking knowledge of the future or the unknown by supernatural means is known as divination. The priests discovered various ways for divining. One popular method was a skilled diviner followed to interpret the mysterious signs on the levers of the sheep offered in sacrifice. What is that? The diviner, after asking an enigmatic question and before slaughtering the sheep, prays to God of divination, asking them to manifest themselves in the ritual. The divine response may be seen after the sacrificial sheep is slaughtered. It is manifest in the shape of various marks and grooves on the liver and other organs, which are deciphered by the diviner. So, what is that? A sheep is slaughtered, but before that, the diviner or the priest asks to God to give his message through that sheep. How? After the sheep is slaughtered, its liver or other organs are taken out, and depending upon the marks that they found in that liver, they they decode the message of the god through that. It means first the diviner asks the question to God, and then they sacrifice that animal, usually a sheep, as you can see in this picture. And after the sheep is slaughtered, the liver is taken out of its body, and depending upon the marks or the marks of blood or the cut marks present on that liver, the diviner or the priest will decode the message of God, and he will answer the question that he made before. So this was a ritual or the practice that was prevailing during that time. Now this practice later spread eastward and westward. The reading of the liver was a common practice in Rome. The Chinese, on the other hand, used to interpret the cracks on heart shells or bones. The Babylonians further believed that the will of the gods could be discovered and future could be foretold by the study of heavenly bodies by the priests, who in this way laid the foundation of astrology. So from this discussion you can see that priests during that time hold a very important position, because they became the medium through which the message of God is given to the common people. And it is from this concept of divination, this modern day concept of astrology came into being. So that was about temple and priest. Now let us know something about the learning and culture of Babylon. In those days, government activities and business transactions required educated persons. Schools were conducted in temples where people learned reading and writing, arithmetic, geometry, and hygiene. They drew up maps and city plans on earthen tablets. Many of them have survived. So over here you can see maps on earthen tablets. So the Babylonians had a sound knowledge of algebra and astronomy, the division of the whole year into 12 months of 29 and 30 days each, and the division of the day into 12 double hours are theirs. So it is their invention that a year has 12 months of 29 and 30 days, and one can divide a day into 12 hours, double 12 hours, that means 24 hours. These discoveries are credited to Babylonians. To measure the hours, they invented water clocks and sundials. So from this discussion we can say it is quite obvious that Babylon ranks very high in the history of civilizations. Besides, the Babylonian civilization spread over a large part of ancient world. Now in our first class we discussed that while discussing about Babylon, Hammurabi's code is a very important thing that we should know in detail. So Hammurabi, the illustrious king of Babylonia, achieved undying fame in history for his famous code. Some 60 years back, a group of archaeologists unearthed a pillar of black stone in Mesopotamia, which is now kept in the Museum of Paris. It is this black stone, as you can see in the first picture. This is actually the Hammurabi's code that was unearthed by some archaeologists in Mesopotamia, and it is at present in Louvre Museum at Paris. So at the top portion of this stone you will see two pictures. First one is of King Hammurabi and the second one is Shamash, the god of the sun and the god of the justice. So this picture shows that Hammurabi is standing before the god of justice and the god of sun, and the god gave his rod to Hammurabi, and Hammurabi got the power from the god, and it is after getting that power he is able to write this codes or form these codes. So we already discussed about the top portion of it. Now if we go into detailing of this lower portion of that black stone, you will see that in the first portion below the two figures there is a prologue in which Hammurabi lists the name of the gods, saying that they have given him the right to rule, and it is also written in V-shaped cuneiforms later. And below that prologue there are 282 laws organized by theme, including family life, agriculture, theft and professional standards. There are a total of 3500 lines of writing covering both sides of this stone. So at the top we get this picture where Hammurabi is getting that rod from the sun god, and from him he get this enlightenment to form this codes. And then he, in the prologue, he mentions the list of name of gods, and then after the prologue comes 282 laws that we know as code of laws. And at the end, following the laws in the epilogue, in which Hammurabi states how the law should be carried out. So after deciphering the script, it has been believed that Hammurabi received message from the sun god, which he got engraved on the surface of the pillar as his code. Now Hammurabi's code has immense historical value, as we can get a fair idea about the contemporary Babylonian society from it. It is worth remembering here that Hammurabi's code is the oldest book of law in the world. Now from Hammurabi's code, it is known that the contemporary Babylonian community was divided into three main classes. The aristocrats, as we can see in this graph as the patricians, that they are the aristocrats, and then the middle class people, and finally the slaves. So this we came to know from Hammurabi's code. The highest class comprised of the officers and ministers attached to the courts and the owners of vast land property. The middle class people belong to the second stratum of the society. The craftsmen, the traders and the like were the members of this class. And finally the slaves, who were owned by both upper class and belonged to the lowest level of the society, and their condition was very miserable. Hammurabi's law were famous because they were very strict. In this respect, particular mention may be made that the punishment for an injury should require the infliction of the same injury on the culprit. Thus, his code recommended the principle of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. For example, when the son of a house owner is killed due to collapse of the building, the builder also had to suffer the loss of his son. The innocent son was thus condemned to death. So, the code of law that Hammurabi created was that very strict. If you take someone's eye, then you have to give your eye in return. It was that strict. So out of 282 laws that was coded in that black stone, here are some of the laws, like if anyone steals the property of temple or the court, he shall be put to death. If anyone steals the minor son of another, he shall be put to death. So these are some laws that are mentioned over here. So with this we end this section Babylon. Now it is your task to read Babylon and see whether you are having any difficulty understanding it or not. If you have any difficulty, send your query at the given mail address. Thank you.